Back. This is going to be a quick but pretty important video because we're going to really touch on some ideas that are central to this class. The topic of the video is subfields and contexts of communication study, and two of our learning objectives directly relate to this. By the end of this class, I really want you to be able to name some of the major subfields of communication studies and then be able to identify the topic areas that each of those subfields looks at. We're just going to focus today on just familiarizing ourselves with some of the major subfields. We can think about communication studies as being divided up into various subfields. We could also think of these subfields as being contexts for the study of communication. Remember that communication studies is the study of the process of communication, and that process occurs in the world in various different contexts. And so we might organize the study then into the study of these various contexts. For example, the first on the list here is interpersonal. This is the study of communication within the context of a relationship, one-on-one. Below that, is group communication. Generally, we think of group communication as occurring between around 3 to, say, 15 people. In groups that are larger than 15, it starts to look more like organizational communication or public communication. But generally, when you have about 3 to 15 people, those people can engage in small group decision making and problem solving, and a scholar of group communication would try to understand that. Below that, we have organizational communication, even larger group, right? You got kind of several different groups organized into one organization. How does that communication work? A communication scholar who is in the subfield of organizational communication would ask that question. Public communication is public speaking, and that deals with one person talking to a large audience of people. We might put rhetoric within public communication here, but public communication, the study of public speaking in particular. Media communication, mass media, broadcasting, how do the different traditional and new media work? This is communication among large groups, large networks, potentially dealing with millions of people being involved. And below that, I have cultural and intercultural communication. How does a culture communicate its ideas? How does it pass its ideas down from generation to generation? How do two different cultures communicate with one another? How do individuals from those cultures communicate with one another? That's what a cultural communication scholar or an intercultural communication scholar would look at. Below that, we're going to also take a look this semester at gender communication and conflict communication. This list could go on and on and on, and so there's things like family communication, workplace communication. You get the picture. The ones in bold are the ones we're going to be reading about this semester, and you should be able to identify, and you should be, by the end of the semester, able to talk about the different kind of topic areas within these 6 that I have highlighted here on this list. So get to know these ones: interpersonal, group, media, cultural, gender, and conflict communication. I want you to know this semester. And at the end of the semester, there'll be a final exam that's going to ask you to kind of write about each of these subfields and some of their areas or topics for study. Hope this video was helpful.